welcome to Revolution Youth. We are glad that you are with us tonight. So, how many streams have we done now?
This is our third.
This is our third.
Yeah.
This is our third. This is our third stream, and I've gotten a lot of questions. You know what? Scratch that. I've gotten one question repeatedly, and it hasn't been, how do I get to know Christ? Or Jeremy, how are you such an awesome husband and father and just man? No, it hasn't been those questions.
It hasn't?
No, it hasn't. It's been, is there something in our cups? That's the question we've been having over and over. So maybe you've been wondering, is there something in our cups? The answer is yes.
Yes.
There is liquid that we are consuming in our cups when we do these live streams. So, do you guys feel better?
It's water.
It is water. It's not coffee, and I know they're in coffee cups, but it is water. Water's a little bit better for me when I'm talking. So, do you guys need something when you're talking, like a warm cup of something so your voice doesn't dry up?
No. I think my body's used to me talking a lot, so I don't need anything to.
I always have to get rid of what I have when I'm talking. I always have a piece of gum in, and then I gotta spit it out. Messes with my voice.
I could see that it would do that.
Yeah.
Distraction.
All right. Hey, well, welcome. We're glad that you're here once again. And now that you know that we have stuff in our cups, we're not just messing with you by lifting them up and taking a drink. So tonight we're gonna play some games, or at least we're gonna play one game, and it's a trivia game. So a few instructions. We want to know that you're here, and so if you comment, that helps us know who's watching, and it helps it be a little bit more interactive, and it helps us here know that there's people actually watching us talking, right? Because right now we're like talking to a camera, and it feels weird. We're not sure if there's actually people there, so we want to hear from you. So tonight we're going to play some trivia, and I do have a prize for the person that gets the most right. So, and I'll hand deliver that prize to you. I'm not going to tell you what that is tonight. You're just going to have faith that it's a good prize.
Is it pizza?
It could be pizza, but I doubt it. We've done pizza the last 2 weeks, so maybe I'll mix it up.
A different kind of pizza.
I'll do like a calzone or something. Either way, we have a prize for you. So I have some trivia, so we're going to dive into that right away after I pray. But seriously, though, thank you for being here. You matter, and we're glad that you're here. So let's pray. Father, thank you for this time. Would you just bless it as a time of fellowship? Father, as a time of learning more about what your scriptures teach us, what you're trying to communicate to us through your story. And Father, that we have a story that aligns with you. Father, bless this time and help us to have some fun. We pray this in your Son's name. Amen. All right, well, let's dive into some trivia. You guys ready?
Oh, yeah.
I'm ready.
Do you guys like trivia?
I like it, yeah. I'm pretty good at it.
You're pretty good
I'm
at
not
it?
trying to flex.
I like it, but
Seems like
I'll be Ryan.
Seems like you are.
All right, yeah.
Man, some of these questions I'm not sure if you guys will know. These are trivia questions for teens. So my expectation for you as teens is that you would know the answer to all of them. Yeah, that's right. So the first question is, in which year were the U.S. Grammy Awards started?
I don't know.
Do you guys watch that?
I don't watch it, no. I think it's an old people thing.
I'll give you 30 seconds, then I'll give you the answer. It's an old people thing. And by the way, there's a bit of a delay. So if we pause randomly, there's a bit of a delay. Like 7 seconds or so. So.
Yeah.
12
I don't know.
12-second delay right now. That's pretty big.
Mm-hmm.
So, anyway, do you watch the Grammys?
I don't watch the Grammys. I've never watched them.
I don't even know what happens with the Grammys.
Do you know what they are even?
Wait, is it?
I know that there's
something
a gold
with movies,
trophy.
right?
It is something with movies.
Oh, yeah.
It's like a movie award.
I think so. I don't know if I can tell you.
Per year?
I think so.
Yes.
Grammy Awards.
I don't know,
Only awards
There's
I
a lot of
watch
good-
is the
there's a lot of good
CMT
movies.
Music Award.
I don't know if I watch any award shows.
I don't either.
All right. Okay. Well, the
Netflix.
answer to this one, which year were the U.S. Grammys started, was 1959. Did anybody
Hey, I
comment
know
on
that.
that?
I'll look.
You
Dawson,
Dawson
got
got it at 1959.
it. Did he guess? Did you look it
He
up?
first said no idea, and then he said 1959.
Whoa,
I
whoa,
think
whoa,
that's
No,
not
there
that.
could be two answers.
Dawson,
Dawson.
are you using your phone?
All right.
No phones. Come on, man.
Grammys for the music. Jordan says so. Grammys are for music. Thank you, Jordan.
Oh, okay. I didn't even know that. Thanks, Jordan. Dawson, put your phone away. And for the rest of you, put your phone
He looked
away.
it up. Dawson.
Dawson. Come on, man. All right. What is the old-fashioned name for tomato?
Tomato.
Did you even know that there was another name for tomato?
No.
I just thought it was tomato.
You're going to be
Covered this
blown
on
away when you hear what
VeggieTales.
it actually is.
Is it like a dirt melon? I don't know.
A dirt melon. You heard it here first. The new name for tomatoes is dirt melon.
Yep. Tell your friends. Here all night until 8.
Is anybody
yeah, I have no
commenting?
idea.
Jordan said ketchup.
Ryan
Ketchup.
Ryan
I like
Miller says red thing. Very original, Ryan. Really.
Red thing. Nice. Okay, well the I don't know if anybody's got this, but correct me if I'm wrong. The old-fashioned name for tomato is love apple.
I love apple. I think I heard that before. Actually.
Love
That's
apple.
terrible.
love
Tomatoes are
apple.
disgusting.
Love
I don't know if I've
apple.
ever heard that ever.
More like terrible apple.
apple. Oh.
Okay, this
Love
one
apples are.
this one's pretty easy, so it's going to be the first person to answer. So, how is the age of a tree identified?
Oh, that's easy.
That's pretty easy.
Well, actually, in like 6th grade, we were like doing a study on like creation versus like evolution, and it said that that's not always reliable. That's
Oh, it's
off by
not.
a few years.
I mean, if you're guessing the
It's-
age of a tree, off
yeah.
by a few years is pretty accurate, I
Yeah.
feel. All right, who was the first to guess? I'm just assuming somebody got it.
said Jordan Miller said the rings, and then Dawson
The
said
rings.
the ring, and then Jordan said the number of them. Dawson said, "Yeah, that." I think Jordan.
I don't know.
took
That
this
was a
one.
pretty unclear.
Are we keeping track of who has?
Yeah, we can
Okay.
count it afterwards
Yeah.
or during. I guess I don't know. Maybe somebody can keep track. I don't know. I don't know how we're gonna keep track of this. So we'll find out later who got the most right. But Jordan, I'll give that one to you.
Oh,
Yeah, I don't
Ryan
think
Miller
you should give
says
it to him.
arrow up. So
Arrow up. Okay.
close third.
Okay. So which is the largest and tallest tree in the world? And I need the name. I
I
need
know
the name
this.
of the tree.
There's one at Climb Lumber. The stump.
Man, actually, I don't know if I
don't
can. I don't know if I can say this.
Okay,
Yeah.
then I don't know it. I thought I
Can I
knew
re-
it,
can I
but
look at it?
Do you know how
can
to
I
say
see
it?
it?
Oh yeah, I can say that. That's easy. That's light work.
Can I see it? Which one?
This is embarrassing.
Jordan commented.
Maybe it's just because I can't make sense of it. Sorry, it's this one right.
Well, actually went
Here.
there out
Yeah,
west.
I don't know that.
Sucker.
Oh, yeah,
I know
knew
how to
that.
say-
I knew that.
oh, yeah.
Okay, Shelby is looking some stuff up because she says Hyperion, which is
Is not
Hey,
It's
even.
not even.
Hey, don't be looking stuff up.
Don't be looking
Shelby's
stuff up.
smart.
That's not even.
It
the,
doesn't matter.
I'm not gonna say if that's the right one or not yet. Maybe I shouldn't have said that.
Dawson says Sequoia. Olivia Hilty says
They
she
looked
took
up.
it. She took it away.
Okay, so the answer is Sequoia dendron.
Sequoia dendron gigantum. Or
Just say the or
California
part.
redwood.
Yeah, or California redwood.
So-
I was. That seems like a pretty easy one, right?
Jordan said redwood. I think he got that one.
Did you say California redwood?
It's
there any
not
other
just
redwoods?
Any
Oh,
redwood. It's a California.
California
I mean, it seems like a.
So Jordan
seems-
would be wrong.
Seems like a distinction.
But also
there.
nobody. Well, Dawson said Sequoia. Shelby said, "I was at the Sequoias." Ha ha ha. Well, Shelby, I was too, and I didn't see anything about the Hyperions there. So,
Well, great job, everybody.
oh, Jordan says there's no other redwoods. Sounds like somebody who's using Google to me.
Be honest, guys. I mean,
Yeah, I don't
well,
think they know their.
don't
trees
be
that
looking stuff up. Jordan, I think I trust you. If you use redwoods and there are no other redwoods, I'll give it to you, Jordan. All right.
Wow, there's a little bit of a fight going on here. Maybe pay better attention.
Wait, to
I'm not
who?
even to me.
To me.
Shelby said to pay better attention.
Ooh.
Jordan said he's playing FIFA right now. By the way, I don't care.
All right. Okay, I got another one for you. What is the birthplace of Napoleon Bonaparte? And I need the city and the country.
Who's
So
Bonaparte?
Napoleon
You don't know who
Dynamite.
Napoleon Bonaparte is?
Basically, it's a movie.
I have no idea.
It's,
Oh, man,
isn't
this-
it the guy
I'm
from
gonna
like?
make a fool of myself
Isn't here? Let me.
saying this too.
Ryan Miller's calling. Can I answer it?
Yeah, sure, answer. But keep it brief.
You're on speakerphone, Ryan.
Bro, did I not say Redwood?
I don't know, and quite frankly, I don't care. So, even if you did, you didn't say it first. You got beat
At
by
some
you got
point-
beat by Jordan Miller, and he's playing.
At some
FIFA.
point, I have to realize that the live stream is being hijacked. So,
Hey, Jeremy.
what's that?
I was just arguing a point. It's
Okay, it's all right. It's all right, Ryan.
Everybody say bye to Ryan.
He's
Bye,
wrong.
Ryan.
Bye,
Bye,
Ryan.
He's gonna watch this like 20 seconds later and be like, "What was happening?
Yeah.
Like, what's with the delay?" Okay, the birthplace of Napoleon Bonaparte is France. Wait, did anybody guess it?
Jordan Miller said Paris, France.
It is not Paris, France.
Oh, oui. Okay.
Did anybody else guess the city? I don't want to say it before.
Garrett Shelp said small town in France.
Is it Corsica? Corsica?
Corsica. That sounds.
C-O-R.
Corsica. Corsica.
Corsica.
I couldn't tell
Corsica.
you.
France.
I don't even know who the
Oh
person is.
man, Napoleon Bonaparte wasn't he like
Wasn't he the
dictator?
Mongolian fighter guy, or is that the Napoleon? Other Napoleon.
Napoleon
you don't know
Bonaparte
him
was
either.
like a French emperor, dictator, or something like that. I don't know. Anyway, okay, so I got one more for you guys. One more.
Ooh.
Let's see who gets this last one. Ooh.
Ooh.
Okay, from 1933 to 1945, which country maintained an official state of emergency?
Say the question again, please.
From 1933 to 1945, which country maintained an official state of emergency?
I have no idea.
I know.
I have an idea, but I'm just making conversation.
As you can
Jordan,
see, I threw the paper away, so I knew it. What did Jordan say?
I'm not gonna say it because I think he's right.
Okay.
I knew it.
You knew it?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
Did you actually know
Yes,
it? Or
I
did you
did
read
know
it
it.
on the
I was
paper?
thinking
I'm gonna
about it, and then I
say-
looked at the paper to see if my
I'm
answer
gonna say
was right, and-
Alabama.
Alabama.
Final answer.
Which country?
Vermont.
Stockholm.
I guess you guys are gonna have to go back to.
Nobody answered except for Jordan. Wow, they must all just knew he was right. Should I say it?
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't know if it's right or not. Jordan Miller says Germany. Is that right?
Germany is correct.
Germany is correct.
Germany held an official state of emergency from 1933 to 1945.
I could see why.
I think he answered the most too, right?
Yeah, I did. Jordan,
Yeah,
I think you're our lucky winner.
Yeah,
for
you're
that.
our lucky winner. You get a prize.
Yeah.
I'm not going to tell you what the prize is. I'm just going to show up at your house one day.
It's
With
a
a box of
Molotov
fries.
cocktail. All right, never mind.
NBC segment.
I shouldn't have taken a drink right after I said that. That was really creepy. I'm trying to not go into like stalker mode, but Jordan, I'm going to show up at your house
I will find.
with a prize.
And it's
I'm
gonna
not
be
close to
water.
this.
'cause
All right,
it's-
hey, so we are in Easter, or close to Easter, right?
Yeah.
Do you guys have
Sunday.
any Easter traditions?
When we were younger, we did. We used to like have an Easter egg hunt, obviously, and dyeing eggs. We're dyeing eggs this year, and we usually go to like Pleasant View because that's where all of our like other cousins and stuff go, but not this year because Corona.
Mm-hmm.
I was actually disappointed this year because we always go to my great aunt's house and my whole family goes there, and then while we're there we eat and fellowship together, and then we have an Easter egg hunt for the little older kids, and all the older kids hide the eggs and we watch them fight for eggs and stuff, and it's pretty funny.
You know, I feel like I'm one of the weird ones. I don't feel like our family ever had like an official tradition.
You
like,
are Amish.
This is this is what we did. I was in Amish after like 4,
Oh. I didn't
which
know
I
that.
was like basically Amish then too. But
Mennonite.
Yeah, basically, but like strict.
Yeah, I got it.
But anyway,
Not like this.
we didn't really have any official Easter traditions. Like it was always Christmas. We always had Christmas traditions, but not Easter
Planting
traditions.
corn.
Corn. Man, I wasn't. We were farmers for a little bit, so yeah, we did plant a little bit of corn. So, well, hey, Easter is just around the corner, so we are going to dive into our Easter series. It's called Worth It, because we believe that Jesus coming down to earth, living a life here as the spotless lamb, going to the cross and dying for us was a display to us that he felt like we were worth dying for. Were we worthy of the gift that he was giving us? Absolutely not. So let's make that distinction, right? We weren't worthy of the free gift of salvation through Jesus on the cross, but he died for us because he felt like we were worth it. So this is the series that we're gonna dive into. But before I dive too deep, have you guys ever spent like a lot of time or energy on something that was like worth the investment?
That was worth the investment?
That was worth the investment.
I mean, yeah, probably. I just can't. I mean, yeah, so like sports and stuff is a good example. Work, you work and you get paid.
Work.
Yeah, just
So never like
my
a
summer job.
big task that you wanted to accomplish, and you put tons of energy into it, and it just was worth it in the end.
Well, I mean, sometimes like there's been things like around the house that I could have done that like I would do it to try and get a reward from my parents from it, that I would do it, and then I would realize it wasn't worth doing because I didn't get anything for it.
So this is something that wasn't worth it.
Well,
What
I got
helping
a
your
lot of
parents
things
wasn't
that weren't
worth it is what Brant is trying to say.
Yeah.
Some things on
Disobey
some
your
occasions.
On some occasions. Well, I feel like I have one. Like I went elk hunting one time.
Really?
Yeah,
Oh, no.
it was pretty cool. And like there was this big mountain that like some of us guys were like, "Hey, let's go climb that mountain." And I was like, "You know what? No. That doesn't sound fun." But like when you got to the top, it was absolutely like the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. Have you ever been like in the Rocky Mountains? Like really up high? Like it's like
As my good friend Hannah Montana once said, it ain't about how fast you get there. It ain't about what's waiting on the other side.
it's the climb.
It's the climb.
It is the climb. And it was awesome. But I believe it was where I got to, and that it wasn't the climb because the climb was awful. It was terrible. But once we got to the top, man, it was cool. It was really cool.
Where was it at? Like what state?
Colorado.
Colorado.
I've never been
I don't
out
know
west.
anything
You've never
about-
been out west?
No.
So, have you ever done something difficult? I guess we're gonna differentiate. Spent a lot of time and energy, but have you ever done something difficult and it was worth it in the end? Sports, I guess, could fall under that
sports,
category.
Not always. Not Wayndale soccer. We're bad.
Rip. I mean,
I don't know.
baseball, I mean, they work the crap out of us, and then at the end of the year, we're usually pretty successful, and it's fun,
Yeah.
and we all feeling part of a team is pretty fun.
Yeah.
So as we like dive into this series, I want us to have something in mind as we dive into it. Like, is it better? Like, is it nice when somebody helps you through something difficult because they've already been there? So like, if climbing that mountain was really, really difficult, but somebody came along that's like, hey, I've climbed a mountain before and it's really cool up top. Would it be better that way? So like, I mean, I remember getting through difficult times in my life with like, because people surrounded me, like in ways that they've been there, they've been to those points in their life. So they were like, hey, this was helpful to me, or that was helpful to me, but we just want to help. So those are the things I want you to keep in mind as we like go through this series and specifically this message, like because Jesus has identified with us, like he's walked through the same struggles we've had, and in some ways, and even in a heightened way. So, but maybe you're thinking the most difficult thing I've ever had was like a broken arm during the soccer season, or a thumb, right? A broken thumb during the
Not
football
fun.
season.
Right at the
I mean, that was
beginning.
horrible, right?
Oh, it was terrible.
Yeah. I mean, was there anybody that came up to you and was like, "Hey, I've broken my thumb before
I don't
during
know.
football"?
I wasn't
in
really.
the beginning of the football.
I
season?
wasn't
Storm,
really
actually.
listening to anyone.
Would
I
it have
was-
helped though if somebody would have been like, "Hey, I know this is difficult. I've been there, man."
Yeah.
Somebody
I don't
talk
know.
to
You don't know?
Yeah, talking to somebody would have been fine, but it wouldn't have helped any.
Yeah.
Like, if someone would have told me they broke their thumb, I would have been like, yeah, that's terrible. I know how it
Join
feels.
the-
But in some ways, you get a little bit of comfort from that, knowing like, oh, well, I'm not the only one. Or
I can connect a little bit.
Yeah, you can connect a little bit with them. Well, maybe you've been struggling with something even bigger. Like maybe the things you're walking through are more difficult, like rejection, or like stress, or disappointment, or sickness, or loss. Like I've been very stressed, and people have come along and helped me through those things, and it really has helped me. Or maybe the things that like you're going through that are pretty tough or pretty ordinary, but they're still like exhausting. Like, do you guys get exhausted sometimes with just the daily
Yes.
routine and the grind, and like it's like, ugh, like this is so difficult? Maybe that's you. Maybe you're there. I mean, those things get tiring. But like when we're experiencing those difficult things, like the thing we need the most is comfort from someone who understands what we're going through, right? Like that really helps.
Yeah.
At least it helps me. Brent said, if he broke his
A
thumb,
broken thumb is a little different.
Yeah,
it is a little
Someone
different.
talking to you
Something
is
is
not
good.
gonna help it feel
I'll give
better.
that to you. It is a little bit different. So, but I mean, there is like this level of togetherness, like helping things, even though your situation was unique. I mean, like feeling alone stinks, right? Like it does not feel good. And like when life gets tough, it's actually really easy to feel alone. And if you're there, I know what you're going through. I've walked through those things. I understand what it feels like. But my encouragement to me is like to seek out godly wisdom of people that have walked through those things as well, because it really feels good to get that sort of comfort from them. But we often distance ourselves from God when those things come along, right? Like we're like, oh, like I'm so mad at this, I'm just gonna kind of draw back. I've seen posts about those things.
You just want to do it, like try and do it on your own.
Yeah.
I can relate with that. Like when I get frustrated about something, I'm kind of a person more to myself, and I build up that anger inside, and I've been working on it, but it's like a struggle that I have sometimes. That it's, and then I realize when it's over, like it was just stupid. Like why am I even acting like this? Like,
Right. And you know, when you walk through those times and people are like, God is with you, like that's helpful to know, but sometimes it's like, how can like God actually know what I'm walking through? Like how, like I feel so alone, and I feel like I'm going through life alone. And like it can feel like God has no clue what it feels like for friends to turn their backs on you, or to lose friendships, or when you like don't do great in a sporting year or something for you athletes, or you didn't get a job that you wanted. Like you were really hoping you got this job, or that you could win an award, that you were like working hard to win an award and you didn't. Or like some of the more common ones, somebody said something hurtful to you. Like those things are pretty common. Or maybe your family's struggling. Like maybe your family is not in a great place, and you're like finding it difficult to wonder, why would God let this happen? And should I just give up? Is it worth it all? Like you might have those emotions. So those are common. Like those feelings of emptiness and alone and loneliness, I guess, are common. And it may surprise you, but Jesus does understand what we're going through. So I've been around church like all my life, right? Like you guys probably have too, right? And you've probably heard that Jesus has died for you on many, many occasions. Am I right?
Yes.
And that he rose from the dead a few days later,
Yes.
right? You've heard that
Yeah.
every year since you've been born, right? You came
Every
out of the
every
womb
day.
knowing that, right? Like it's just knowledge that you know. It is worth celebrating, and that's really why we celebrate. But sometimes when we're like, when we've grown up in that culture, it can sometimes feel like, okay, we're just going through the motions again. It's Easter. Yeah, we know Jesus died for us. He rose again. Like, that's awesome. But I really want to dive into how powerful of a story this is, because it can feel like a little bit repetitive. So Jesus has died and rose again. But tonight I really want to focus on Jesus has died. You know, we know he rose again, but he actually died. Like he died. And we are quick to rush to him rising again, but I want us to think through the weightiness of his actual death. So I've got a video that I want to show you guys, and then we'll talk through it, all right? So check this out.
Jesus and his remaining 11 apostles had just finished the Passover meal. It was their last supper together before everything changed. After the Passover meal was complete, Jesus and his disciples left the borrowed room and went to Gethsemane. Now, Gethsemane is an olive grove. You can see it right down here. It's by the Kidron Valley on the lower slopes of the Mount of Olives. It's across the Kidron Valley from the Temple Mount, which you can see up there. Gethsemane means olive press in Hebrew, and it indicates that this was a commercial oil operation. Olive oil in the ancient world was a precious commodity, being used for everything from cooking to cleaning to skincare to lamp fuel. In addition to olive presses, Gethsemane was full of olive trees. In fact, there's still an olive grove preserved here today. The shelter of these trees made it a great place to seek solitude. It appears that Jesus and his disciples would come to a particular spot, a garden area buried within the olive groves. Jesus would take his closest friends here to rest and pray after long days in the temple complex. But this time it was different. Jesus was overwhelmed with anxiety. The Gospel of Matthew says that he told Peter, James, and John, "My soul is very sorrowful, even to death. Remain here and watch with me." Matthew 26:38. The Garden of Gethsemane, here at the foot of the Mount of Olives, is now protected by the walled grounds of the Church of All Nations, also known as the Church of the Agony. It's a peaceful garden among a grove of ancient olive trees, looking back at the eastern wall of the city of Jerusalem. It's here that the Gospel of Luke says Jesus knelt down and prayed. "Father, if you are willing, remove this cup from me. Nevertheless, not my will, but yours be done." And there appeared to him an angel from heaven, strengthening him. And being in agony, he prayed more earnestly, and his sweat became like great drops of blood falling down to the ground. Luke 22:42 through 44. Never before had Jesus' closest disciples heard such language from their teacher, and never before had they seen Jesus in such anguish. The scripture even goes on to tell us that Jesus sweated drops of blood. Now today, the medical community calls this very rare condition hematidrosis, or blood sweat, where the blood oozes from the forehead or the tear ducts, the nose, or the nails. It can be caused by severe distress, and obviously, Jesus was in severe distress. Gethsemane, the name of the olive grove itself, even contributes to the agony of the scene. Hebrew gat means press, and shemen means oil. It was as if Jesus' sorrow was so intense that he was being pressed, squeezed, crushed under the weight of a huge olive press. Jesus fully understood everything that was about to transpire. And his prayer, "Nevertheless, not my will, but yours be done," was such an important moment in time. Some have said that that was the point that the entire battle was won. The final point of resolve to see his mission through to the end. No turning back. Jesus understood his identity. He understood his destiny. Jesus himself would be the final Passover lamb that was to be slain. Likely bolder now than before he left to pray, Jesus reconvened with his disciples and said this: "See, the hour is at hand, and the Son of Man is betrayed into the hands of sinners. Rise, let us be going. See, my betrayer is at hand." Matthew 26, 45 and 46. As I walk through the Garden of Gethsemane today, it's remarkable to note that this section of trees dates to between 1,500 and 2,000 years ago. See those thick, gnarly trunks? Many scholars believe that these actual trees have been pruned back each year since the time of Jesus. So it's very possible that a few of these trees had a front row seat for what transpired next. Now Judas, who betrayed him, also knew the place, for Jesus often met there with his disciples. So Judas, having procured a band of soldiers and some officers from the chief priests and the Pharisees, went there with lanterns and torches and weapons. Then Jesus, knowing all that would happen to him, came forward and said to them, "Whom do you seek?" They answered him, "Jesus of Nazareth." Jesus said to them, "I am he." John 18, 2 through 5. Jesus, now a man fully resolved, faced Judas and the detachment of soldiers head on. He identified himself and willingly gave himself over to them.
Hey,
So I never trust stairs. You know why?
why?
Because they're always up to something.
Ha.
Ha. There you go. There's your dad joke. All right. So it was scripted. In this one chapter, so this video that you just watched is based off of Matthew chapter 26. And in this one chapter, it covers like the suffering that Jesus experienced. More suffering than anyone or any of us could imagine. Like, can you imagine being so stressed out that your sweat turns to blood?
That would.
Like,
No.
that is
wouldn't be-
intense.
I mean, chemistry kind of gets me stressed every once in a while,
Yeah.
but I don't think it's that bad.
Yeah,
Not
your
like
sweat
blood,
doesn't turn to
Not
blood.
like blood.
But not only that, is that like his friends plotted against him. So one of his followers like betrayed him and like let him down, and his other followers abandoned Jesus right after he was taken. He was taken to trial and he was sentenced to death. He was like spit on, he was beaten, and then one of the friends that said that he would never betray Jesus, that he would rather die than do that, actually betrayed him. He said that, "I don't know this man," which is Peter, by the way. So we might imagine, so Jesus has now been sentenced to death. Like, we might imagine that his walk toward death was like, or it was like complete composure and peace. But because, Jesus is God, like his composure should be that of peaceful. But in the Garden of Gethsemane, we really find that it's a different story. Jesus is super, super stressed about what's going on. And like the biblical account says that Jesus was overwhelmed and in anguish, and he was exhausted because he knew what was going to happen. And in the final hours before Jesus' death, we see him actually ask God if there's another way. He even says, like, if there is another way, could you take this cup from me, is basically what he says. So it's like this unimaginable stress that he's feeling. And, like, I mean, God really didn't see any other way. And Jesus was like, but not my will, but yours. What a powerful statement for us. But here's the thing. Not only did Jesus suffer in this time, but like his followers continued to struggle like with the Roman authority. Like his teachings were seen as threatening to the Roman government, and those who like followed Jesus were seen as a threat, and like they started to oppress them. And naturally, like this made the followers of Jesus wonder, is this thing really worth it? Like this just feels heavy. And many of Jesus' early followers, by the way, were Jewish. So they actually wrote this letter to some of these followers. So like the apostles wrote this letter to early followers of Jesus who were Jewish, and they actually called the book Hebrews. So in the New Testament, we find this book called Hebrews, and this was written to the early followers of the Jewish community, and there was a lot of language used that followers of Jesus that were Jewish would have really understood because they grew up in this sort of environment. But I want to read to you a couple verses from the book of Hebrews just about how Jesus really identified with us, of knowing what the struggle was like, and for us to know that what we walk through, he walked through as well. So the verses I'm going to read to you from are from Hebrews 2:9, Hebrews 2:17 through 18, and Hebrews 4:14 through 16. This is how it reads. But we do see Jesus, who is made lower than the angels for a little while, now crowned with glory and honor because he suffered death, so that by the grace of God he might taste death for everyone. For this reason, he had to be made like them, fully human in every way, in order that he might become a merciful and faithful high priest in service to God, that he might make atonement for the sins of people, because he himself suffered when he was tempted. He is able to help those who are being tempted. So again, we see this idea of what I said earlier. It's nice when somebody can like identify with what we feel. As it says here, like he is able to help those being tempted because he was tempted. And the last passage says, therefore, since we have a great high priest who has ascended into heaven, Jesus, the Son of God, let us hold firmly to the faith we profess. For we do not have a high priest who is unable to empathize with our weakness, but we have one who has been tempted in every way, just as we are, yet he did not sin. Let us then approach God's throne of grace with confidence, so that we may receive mercy and find grace to help us in our time of need. Just what a powerful statement to us. And a great high priest, by the way, what a high priest was, it was someone who would make sacrifices for the people. And they would kind of come on behalf of the people to make these sacrifices whenever they would mess up. And this was the way they would atone for what they did wrong. And they also helped people connect with God, and they prayed to God on people's behalf. But the writer in this book says he didn't just make a sacrifice. Like Jesus was the sacrifice on our behalf. He gave up his own life to make us connect with God forever. And he represents us before God. I mean, what a powerful way, what a powerful way to illustrate this. And the thing was, so like I said, these were Jewish Jesus followers. Like these were early Jews that were following Christ. And these followers were struggling so much, and they were convinced that it was too hard, and that it might be easier for them to just go back to being Jews because they were facing so much oppression. They were just like, well, maybe we should just go back to the old law and not worry about following Jesus. And the writer of Hebrews reminded them that Jesus understands what this is like. Like he knows what it's like to have close friends turn their backs on them. He knows what it's like to feel everyone hating him. And he knows what it's like to lose someone you love or be tempted to do wrong things or to be rejected or hurt so much that it makes you question God. Like, Jesus knows what this feels like. Like, he's been tempted the way we have. So, this is just a powerful illustration that the book of Hebrews gives us. So, like, that poses the question, like, what are some hard things we've gone through? Like for you guys, like, what's the hardest thing you've experienced this year? Maybe other than the coronavirus, but if you do reference the coronavirus, reference, like, specifically how.
I'm gonna reference the coronavirus, but probably like, whenever we first got let out of school, actually doing my work at home, like finding the ambition to do it, was really hard. I don't know. I ended up doing it all, but like, yeah, it was just really tough to get behind and get used to, and because I was sleeping until like noon every day, and yeah. I was always tired.
For us, that was a little bit easier because our parents actually made a schedule for us and made us get up and do our work and have it finished by a certain time. But for me, I would say, like, this year, my junior year, I knew people say, like, as you go on, it's going to get harder and stuff like that. My junior year of school has been a struggle, like, with college classes, and it's real easy to get a bad attitude about it with all the work, and sometimes it's overwhelming.
Absolutely.
But like, when you think about it, it's not that bad. Like, there are people that have it a lot worse off than we do, and we should be grateful for what we have. And sometimes I struggle to see that. Like, that was one of the things.
I think it's funny for us as people, like, it seems like we need a schedule, but at the same time we don't like schedules. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like you said, our parents made a schedule for you. That makes you feel more productive, but if you have a schedule, you're like, ugh, like, this just feels like I'm trapped. Like, I have to do these things.
I was like in the more recent weeks, which we're on school spring break now, so we don't have any work. But like last week, I just hit it really hard, like Monday and Tuesday, and got it all done for pretty much the whole week. There was a few classes that I had to follow up on, but for most of it, I just got it done.
I know, like, getting in a routine for me helps me be more productive too. Like, my body, like, gets used to the routine, and then I get in a flow, and then I feel good about what I'm doing, and that helps me get through things.
So what about, like, maybe some hard things, like we said this year? Like, maybe some really hard things that you faced over the past couple of years. Like, is there something that sticks out in your mind there?
Probably like the transition from junior high to like high school. I was kind of struggling with fitting in and like finding my friend group. And I was kind of like between friend groups, and I was trying to, like, stay like true to God and find a good like Christian friend group that would be a good influence to me and everything. And just finding my place in the youth group too. But yeah, it all worked out, and just thankful for the friends that helped me through it. And,
Right.
Yeah.
I know the transition from junior high to high school, like, a couple years ago was a little weird because when you're going into a high school with older kids and a lot worse influences, it's easier to get involved in a group that's not good, like, that you would expect or people would expect out of you, and then you can create a bad reputation for yourself. And that's one of the things, like, I struggled a little bit with, like, getting involved in the wrong group and the wrong things. And then, like, I'm coming into youth group really helped me too. Like, with the senior class and the junior class that they had my freshman and sophomore year, they kind of set the standard for me to move on, and like, they were examples to me of how I should act when I'm older. And I've taken that and learned from it, and I feel like I'm happy with where I'm at now.
Like, think about the emotions you felt when you just, like, shared some of those things. Like, especially, like, finding that friend group to identify with or finding your place. Like, the emotions that you felt, like, maybe it was, like, hurt or lonely or, excuse me, I drank all my drink now, so. Like, maybe it was rejected in some ways. Like, can you think of a time where Jesus might have felt some of those emotions?
I mean, yeah, obviously in the garden when Judas betrayed him was probably, I don't know if Peter betrayed him too, was probably one of the main ones. But, it says Jesus has experienced everything that we have, which is really like hard to believe with how he handled everything. But I just think it's really important to keep in mind, if he did it, then, we can do it like through him. Just
Like, when I'm thinking about, like, my experience in school, like, with different crowds and like that, it's kind of hard for me to picture, like, how Jesus would have been like influenced by another crowd, like because he's God, like he's 100% God and 100% man, and like how he would be influenced by people, but still be God.
Yeah.
Like, it's weird to think about, and like almost can't comprehend it.
Yeah.
But
Right. Yeah, that's a really powerful picture. The problem is though, like sometimes we get so far into like some of our problems and the things that are going in our life, like we can even ask the question, is it worth it? You know, like I feel like Jesus has answered the question for us, are we worth it to him? But at the same time, like we are asked that question, like, is it worth it for us? Like, are the problems so big that it seems worth it? And in some ways, that can be kind of an overwhelming question and hard to answer. But like in short, my answer is yes. Like, if you're looking for comfort, the best place to go would be Jesus. Probably the worst place you could go would be the opposite direction. If you're seeking comfort anyway, you know, if you want to get better, you would seek after someone who can identify with us, because Jesus said we were worth it, and he walked through some of those hard things before we ever did, and he did it because of you. Like, he thought you were worth it. He wanted to have a relationship with you, so he suffered those things for you. So in short, I say yes. Like, is it worth it? Yes, because I feel if you're going to seek comfort through some of life's struggles, Jesus is the best place to go. But even in saying that, is following Christ easy?
No.
It's not, right? Like, it's difficult. I mean, just like the early Christians, you know, they struggled following Christ, and like we sometimes suffer because of those things. But the joy that we get from knowing that Jesus suffered for us, so that we could be with him, is just a way more powerful picture. So, Good Friday's coming up. So, do you guys have any Good Friday traditions?
No,
No.
we don't.
No?
Nothing, no.
not like Easter,
Right.
like getting all together like that. I mean, there might be little things we do like as a family, but
Do you find it interesting we don't have any like Good Friday traditions, but we have Easter traditions?
yeah,
Yeah.
it's kind of
Like-
weird.
Like, Jesus went to the cross and died for us, but like we don't have any like Good Friday traditions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, that's
I
just
don't-
strange to me.
Yeah, I think it's mostly because I don't know. I mean,
Yeah, I'm not saying that there necessarily should be. I'm just, the thought that occurs to me is like, we want to experience so much joy on Easter of knowing that Christ has risen from the dead, but we miss the sorrow of Jesus struggling at the cross. I mean, extreme suffering, painful suffering. So Good Friday reminds us that we're not alone, right? That's something we learned today. Good Friday reminds us that we're not alone. Good Friday reminds us that we can go to God with our suffering because he's experienced those same things. And Good Friday also reminds us to comfort others. Like, we have maybe struggled through some of the things that other people are going, and we can actually help and be an influence. So, like, this is just a great thing for us to do, to be there. But I do think it is important for us to remember that Jesus actually suffered. So in closing, I have like a few closing thoughts, and then maybe we can talk about a few thoughts, and then we'll close with some prayer. But like why do you think it's important for us to remember and reflect on the suffering of Jesus?
it just helps us to obviously remember it, and just obviously if you do it like you said every year, we've been doing it, and more than that, it just feels like we're going through the motions. But I feel like you have to hit it really hard and just actually like try and comprehend what it meant for him to die on the cross and give his life for us.
Right.
I feel like it's big that we reflect on it because he did that for us, like out of love, and him doing that shows like how much he loves us, like unconditionally. Like, we can never love someone like he loved us because he died on a cross for us, and he suffered for our sins. Like, that's it. We should have to reflect on it because he loved us so much.
Yeah.
It's like,
That's awesome. That's really good. Do you feel like, so we talked about like being able to identify with people because we've gone through the same thing. Do you feel like we're limited to that? Like we can only offer encouragement to people if we've walked through those issues?
No. I mean, maybe it might be more helpful advice if we would have gone through the same
Right.
things that they have, but I feel like you can always offer some kind of insight. Or
I feel like that a little bit, like if there's an age difference, like if we're the younger ones and there's older people out there like that are struggling with something that maybe we already struggled with, like maybe they wouldn't listen to us because we're younger and stuff like that. Like I know in church we've talked about that and it shouldn't be a problem. Like we're all here to help each other, but like sometimes I would struggle with that.
The main idea I want you guys to take away from this tonight is that the Jesus who suffered, so the Jesus we're talking about, who suffered, if you're suffering, he suffers with you. He's walked through those things, and he's been there before you have, and that he knows what it's like. So the question I want to ask you guys that I want you to reflect on this week is, do you need help or comfort because of something difficult that you're going through? And if so, how can our group, so how can Revolution Youth help you with that? Reflect on that this week as you go through your week, because we're here to help. We want to be an encouragement to you. So I'm going to close us in prayer and close this time, but thank you for joining us. We'll be back next week at 7. Thanks. Let's pray. Father, thank you for the gift of your Son, Jesus, that he suffered and died so that we could have life through him, that he can walk with us through the suffering that we feel because he's been there and he knows what it's like. Father, you go before us and you come behind us. There's never a corner that we walk around that you're surprised by because you go before us and you come behind us and you walk with us through our struggling. We love you, Lord, and it's in your Son's name we pray. Amen. All right, thanks, guys. See you next week.
be sure to